Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast with your hosts, Reese Downing and Jacob Workman.
What's going on, guys? It is TNT Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast, NFL edition, week 6. We are ripping through week after week here. With me, as always, is the fine citizen, Mr. Jacob Workman. Jake, how's it going, man?
Going good. Teams coming off a bye, looking healthy, going to a place we typically get screwed.
Well, hopefully that happens again, but we'll dive into that here in a bit. Let's start things off with a quick recap. Jake and I had kind of a bounce back week for both of us. Jake's week 5 was 9-5. He hit his lock with Cincy, missed the dog in Seattle. His total record for the year is 36-40. I went 11-3, had a really solid week. I did miss my dog and my lock, but I am also sitting at 36-40. So we are neck and neck in picks so far this year. Speaking of picks, Jake, how did Vegas do last week?
So just a little update on teams against the spread. The Vikings are a perfect 5-0 against the spread right now. Denver is 4-1 against the spread. The Chiefs, I know we talk some shit about them, how they don't cover a lot, but they are actually 4-1 against the spread right now. The Colts and the Commanders are 4-1 against the spread. And then we got the Lions and the Bears at both 3-1 against the Bears or against the spread. And the Bears do have a push in there. So the Bears are actually 3-1-1. And then going with Kansas City, a little interesting stat here. They are now 13-3 straight up, and they are 10-5-1 against the spread in games that Taylor arrives at.
Leave it to you to drop in some Taylor Swift knowledge. The Kansas City thing is particularly surprising because they're dealing with injuries. Travis Kelce hasn't looked like he normally does. Pat Mahomes is just like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to keep dominating this league. It is nothing short of impressive. He didn't have his best game last week, but the dude keeps finding ways to win. Very, very impressive start to the season so far, and why these guys are continually up there towards the top in terms of Super Bowl favorites year after year. So we'll keep an eye on that team. Let's jump into some news and notes here. I want to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. So they lost to the Baltimore Ravens in Cincy on Sunday in overtime, 41-38. Cincinnati under Joe Burrow historically always seems to start slow in the season. This year they're 1-4. They started last year 1-3. Previous year they were 2-3. 2021 was a bit of an outlier. They started the season 3-1. But in 2020 they started 1-5-1. Schedule hasn't been easy. They've faced an undefeated Chiefs team, the 4-1 Commanders, the 3-2 Ravens that have won 3 straight. That said, what do you think the issue is going on in Cincy?
I really don't know. I mean, they should have won. The punter dropped the snap and cost them the game in last week. I just think they're still too good of a team. I don't quite understand what's happening there. It's a weird situation. They did get rid of some pieces on defense. I don't really think that that's the answer, though. Like, I just feel like they're not playing as a complete team. I don't know if it was lack of preseason with each other because there were some holdouts and Burrow not really practicing and stuff like that. But I don't know exactly what I would say, but they need to get it figured out fast. I mean, it's not that far-fetched to say if they go on a run, there's still a shot at the wild card. So they need to go on that run soon, kind of like Buffalo last year.
Yeah, I definitely don't think they're out of the equation for the playoffs by any stretch. I do think that the defense is a big chunk of what they're struggling with right now. And then on the flip side of the equation, like you just talked about, like Burrow wasn't involved in a lot of the preseason stuff. Jamar Chase was sitting out the entire time. T. Higgins wasn't there the entire time. You're seeing that with other teams like Dallas as an example. Like the whole Dak to CD connection has started slow, and whether they want to admit it or not, specifically with CD, him not being there in the preseason and getting themselves tight, like that's reflecting, especially when you have one less game that you're playing in the preseason now. The preseason stuff that they're doing before the actual game start is very important. I'm surprised that these guys start this way. I don't know what it is with Burrow and his inability to start the season strong. But it's definitely interesting. We'll see what happens with Cincy, but they need to start winning games now because they're only going to be able to do this for another week or two before they're going to get to a point where they're going to be eliminated from playoff competition. Next up, Robert Salah has been shown the door. fired as the Jets head coach on Monday after returning to the Big Apple after a loss in London at the hands of the Vikings. The team has named Jeff Ulbrich, the DC, as the interim head coach. Rumors immediately started swirling after the firing. The Jets quarterback Aaron Rodgers had a hand in the firing, despite owner Woody Johnson dubbing the Vikings game as really a must-win game. We talked about this last week, and I posed the question, after Salah made the comment about the cadence, that didn't bode well for him. What's going to happen if these guys keep losing? Well, that didn't take very long. He's been shown the door. Rodgers was contacted by Johnson the night before the coach was fired, but Rodgers reported that it was just to check in to see how he was feeling because he suffered a low ankle sprain in the loss on Sunday. Rodgers said Salah being fired wasn't mentioned during the conversation. Salah himself said that he was blindsided by the decision. And then on the Pat McAfee show, Rodgers also said, quote, "As far as any of the ridiculous allegations out there, I'm not going to spend more than one sentence in response to it. And that is that I resent any of those accusations because they are patently false. It's interesting the amount of power people think I have, which I don't, but I love Robert." It's also worth noting that Salah was considering firing offensive coordinator and Rodgers' close ally, Nathaniel Hackett, before he himself was let go instead, and that he was escorted out of the building by the director of security. This just seems very muddy, very messy, very ugly exit. Despite Aaron not being able to count, since that was obviously more than one sentence, what are your thoughts on the firing here? Do you think Aaron had a hand in the dismissal, or do you think this was more writing on the wall after repeated seasons of really mediocre play by the Jets under their former head coach?
Yeah, I don't think Aaron had anything to do with this. I mean, no NFL quarterback really has that kind of power, to be honest. I just think it was poor performance. I mean, like we kind of said last week, he had never been a head coach before. He got a job. They've had pieces, but they've struggled since he's been there. He hasn't really proven anything yet. So, I mean, should some of it have been given a little bit more time because of Aaron being hurt all year last year? Probably. But there's also no signs of improvement anywhere. So somebody's got to take the fall for the Zach Wilson draft pick. I mean, there's plenty of things that went wrong in the organization, and it's the NFL. This is what happens. So I don't know if he's a good head coach or not. I wouldn't necessarily hire him, but probably back to a DC for him, and I think he'll be a good DC. I just don't think that was a situation that was a winnable situation for him ever.
Yeah, I think part of the issue here, to start, I don't think it was necessarily fair to let him go this early into it with him only really having 5 games with A-Rod. The second part of this, A-Rod's not been playing that great. He's not been throwing the ball that well. You look at some of the picks that he's thrown over the past couple weeks, and they are not good throws. That's part of it, but you can't fire your quarterback, and you're sure shit not going to fire Aaron Rodgers after investing what you did. So I understand why Salah needs to kind of be the scapegoat. And
part of it too is, I mean, Salah's a defensive coordinator. Like he's not an offensive guy. So I mean, I don't even put that on him either. So that's the point that I'm getting at, is that I think that there's a lot of inefficiencies right now on this team that are on the offensive side of the ball, and that really doesn't reflect on him. So the fact that he was thinking about getting rid of Hackett, or at least removing the play calling duties from Hackett, which I don't even know where those would have ended up if Hackett wouldn't have been fired. Well, there was a report that the play calling, I have never seen if it was actually confirmed or not today, but there was a report that the play calling was changing and it was no longer going to be Hackett calling the plays. So I will follow up with that, but I don't believe he's going to be calling the plays anymore.
Yeah. But then you see him getting fired, and then you are a little surprised in that Hackett's keeping his job. I don't know that Rodgers had anything to do with Salah's firing, but he may have had a hand in keeping Hackett on staff. Yeah, I just think there's a lot of inefficiencies that have been going on with this franchise, and I think that it really boils down to as far back as when Woody Johnson took this team over. There's just been year after year of mediocrity and questionable decisions, both in the draft and free agency. There's a lot going on in New York. It's not easy to be a Jets fan by any stretch of the imagination. Do you think this is going to have an impact on Tay going to New York?
You would think so, but I'm going to say no. I think they're still the favorite to get him.
Okay. I'm leaning towards it being more likely that Tay would prefer to go to New Orleans to play with Carr. But
see, I don't think that's where he would end up either. I mean, Carr's out. I mean, he's going to be hurt for a little bit. I think he would end up in Baltimore. I think it'll either be Baltimore or the Jets. And I just think the combination with Aaron is still what he wants. I think that's what they both want.
Okay. We'll see what happens. It's shit. If he ends up in Baltimore, that's going to be a hell of an AFC championship with the Spags going up against a offense that's got all of those weapons. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Moving on here, we've just got a couple things to touch through with some updates around the league. Aiden O'Connell has been named the Raiders starting QB for week 6, so they have officially benched Gardner Minshew, at least for this week. The NFL is reviewing George Pickens' eye black. I don't know if you saw this. After last week's loss to the Cowboys as a potential league uniform policy violation, Pickens wrote "open fucking always" on his eye black. He could be fined by the league depending on what happens. They're seeing if he quote unquote violated the policy. League rules are that you have to have it approved on what you're going to write. The micromanagement of some of this stuff is ridiculous. Like, I can see them being upset because he wrote fucking on his eye black, but having to run approval for that if through the NFL is a little silly, but we'll see what happens there. Browns Kevin Stefanski will continue to call offensive plays for the Browns despite early season offensive struggles. New England Patriots announced that rookie quarterback Drake May will get his first start this week as the team looks to the future after benching Jacoby Brissett. Eagles have released linebacker Devin White. White played his first 5 seasons in Tampa and was a second-team All-Pro while helping the Bucs win a Super Bowl in his second season. He could be a solid pickup for somebody. I think he went to Philly hoping that he was going to be a bigger part of that defense and quickly found out that they were not going to plug him in where he wanted to play. So I'm glad that they released him. Hopefully he can go find a team that needs him. Dallas Cowboys are one of those for sure. Interesting statistic here with the firing of Salah, only 2 of the 7 new head coaches that were hired in 2021 remain with the teams. Those 2 coaches are Motor City's Dan Campbell and Philly's Nick Sirianni. Urban Meyer, David Culley, Brandon Staley, Art Smith, and now Robert Salah are the other coaches who have already been ousted by their former employer. Even after the Lions bye week last week, your boy Aiden Hutchinson still leads the league in sacks with 6.5. And finally here for our Colts listeners, Gus Bradley does not look to be going anywhere for the time being anyway. Shane Steichen has said that he does have faith that Gus can get this defense turned around. Colts obviously have really been struggling on defense, giving up nearly 500 yards to the Jags last week, which was the 3rd time in 5 weeks the team has given up more than 400 yards. They are last in the league in yards allowed. They are also 25th in points allowed and around the bottom of the league in multiple other categories, which actually makes it a little surprising that they're doing so well against the spread. Tried to parse down the injury report here a little bit. We do have several, but not nearly as long as what it has been. Chiefs receiver Rashee Rice is expected to miss the rest of the season after a friendly fire knee injury. It did result in damage to his LCL, but it did not injure his ACL. So good news there on his front. Cowboys breakout cornerback from last year, Deron Bland, is designated for return and could be available this week. Rookie defensive end Marshawn Nealon has landed on IR after tearing his meniscus in last Sunday's win over the Steelers. Cardinals rookie first-round selection Darius Robinson's practice window has opened. The team now has 21 days to activate him to the 53-man roster, so it looks like he's going to be returning and getting his first start sometime soon. Giants' Kayvon Thibodeau is listed as week-to-week after ongoing wrist surgery. He'll be out for a little bit. Texans' number 1 receiver Nico Collins has been placed on IR after suffering a hamstring injury in last Sunday's win over the Bills. More good news for Lions fans. Coach Dan Campbell expects center Frank Ragnow to play this week against the Cowboys. Safety Brian Branch also practiced this week after missing week 4's win over the Seahawks. That is good news for Detroit. Raiders defensive tackle Christian Wilkins underwent surgery to repair a foot fracture. He is out indefinitely, being placed on IR. Saints QB Derek Carr, we just talked about. He's expected to miss a few games with an oblique injury. The team is considering starting rookie quarterback and former South Carolina Gamecock Spencer Rattler as a sub-in while Carr is out. Jake, I know you got some thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. They should be playing Jake Haener, the Fresno sensation. He actually came in at the end of the game last week when Carr got hurt, and he wasn't awful. I mean, he played decent. I don't know. I guess you give Spencer a chance. I don't think Spencer's going to do shit in the NFL, and I think it'll be really interesting to see how he works in that Saints offense. So
Yeah, he's definitely a different player than Carr.
Yeah, definitely. But Hayner and Spencer Rattler actually both kind of play the same. They're both similar styles. I just think Hayner's more experienced, but I guess, like I said, why not give him a shot, see what he can do? I know in the preseason there were some positive reviews for him, so I guess we'll find out against the Bucks.
Yeah, I think that's probably where a lot of this is coming from, is some of the preseason hype that he had from some of his performances, but we'll see what happens. Vikings running back Aaron Jones is listed week to week with a hip injury. And finally, Steelers quarterback Russell Wilson is a full participant in practice this week. It does still remain to be determined if he is taking over the starting role from Justin Fields. My guess is that he is probably going to be backing up Fields for at least one more week. All right, guys, let's jump into some picks here. Our Thursday night matchup is an NFC West showdown as the 2-3 San Francisco 49ers head north to Space City to face off against the 3-2 Seattle Seahawks. 8:20 p.m. Eastern kickoff at Lumen Field and Amazon Prime. Niners have lost 3 of their last 4. They are coming off a 23-24 loss at home to division rival Arizona, while the Seahawks look to avoid 3 straight losses after losing at home on Sunday to the Giants. San Fran is favored by 3.5.
Yeah, a little surprising with the records going into this game with these two teams. I'm going to go the Niners to cover, but this is going to be a real interesting night tomorrow night. This game's going to tell us a lot. And as a Lions fan, really hoping for a 1 seed, this is one that I'm picking the Niners, but Seattle winning this would be huge.
Yeah, it would be huge. And I am actually going to take Seattle at home here. Both teams have been a little bit up and down, but I like the home team here, especially when they're getting points. So I am taking Seattle in this one.
They're coming, wiki.
Can you get some towels for me, please? I'm really losing a lot of blood.
You sound like you're from London. Yeah, I'm from London.
We are back in London. Just like last week, the first of our Sunday games is an early morning matchup across the pond as the 1-4 Jacksonville Jaguars take on the 3-2 Chicago Bears. 9:30 a.m. Eastern kickoff at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, England. Jacksonville finally got their first win of the season on Sunday, beating the Colts in a scoring fest 37-34. The Bears, meanwhile, are coming off their most convincing win of the season, beating the Carolina Panthers by 26 at Soldier Field. Chicago is favored by 1.5.
Well, we're going to call there's a new international man of mystery. We're going to call him Trevor Lawrence, and we're going to take the Jags beating the Bears at Tottenham Hotspur.
I like it. Tottenham Hotspur. I'm not with you, though. Caleb Williams is starting to look good. Jags pass defense is weak. I'm going to take the Bears here to win and cover in overseas game. Next up, stateside matchups start off with a kickoff. It's an inter-conference matchup as the 4-1 Washington Commanders head to Mobtown to take on the 3-2 Baltimore Ravens. 1 p.m. Eastern kickoff at M&T Bank Stadium on CBS. Washington leads the NFC East and looks to make it 5 straight wins after beating the Browns 34-13 in DC, while Baltimore is looking for their 4th straight win, returning home after a 3-point overtime victory over the Bengals in Cincy. Baltimore is favored by 6.5.
Yeah, Ravens returning home after a tough road game that realistically they should have lost, but they powered through to win. 6.5 is a lot against Washington. I love Washington's offense a lot, but sometimes teams that aren't nearly as good as they think they are go to Baltimore and they get their ass handed to them. So I'm actually going to take Baltimore here minus the 6.5.
We have not picked a line yet that we are in agreement on. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch the Heisman battle between Jaden Daniels and Lamar. I like Baltimore to get the win here, but I don't like the spread. So I am taking the Commanders here plus the 6.5. Next up is an NFC South divisional matchup as the 3-2 Tampa Bay Buccaneers head to NOLA as they face off against the New Orleans Saints, 1 p.m. Eastern at Caesars Superdome on Fox. Tampa is looking to shake off a 6-point loss to division rival Falcons, while the Saints return home and are looking to try to win some football games without Derek Carr for a while. Tampa is favored by 3.5 here.
Yeah, I know the Saints usually play the divisional games close at home, but the quarterback situation just has me in question. So I'm going to take the Bucks minus 3.5.
Yeah, Saints are coming off a short week without Derek Carr. Bucks are coming off a mini bye. Bucks are going to need to slow down Kamara to get the W. I think Tampa's going to get the win here, but I think this is likely going to be a 3-point game. So I'm going to take New Orleans plus the 3.5 at home to keep it close enough. Next up, we have another interconference matchup as the 1-4 Cleveland Browns head to the city of brotherly love to battle the 2-2 Philadelphia Eagles. 1 p.m. Eastern kickoff at Lincoln Financial Field on Fox. Browns continue to struggle on both sides of the ball, and they're coming off a 21-point loss to the Commanders, while the Eagles are coming off a bye week, most recently losing to the Bucs in Tampa 2 weeks ago. Big spread here. Philly is favored by 8.5.
Yeah, I don't know how anyone can trust the Browns right now and with their situation. And Deshaun, Twitter was quite a buzz last week. Like there's a lot of people who want to see Jameis. Like Deshaun is. There's I don't know. Cleveland's in a bad situation. We talked about the Jets situation, but Jesus, this one is very. We thought the Browns. I mean, the Browns should be a decent team. They're nowhere near as bad as they are, and Deshaun's taking a lot of the blame for this. This line is a little big for me at 8.5, but I'm still going to take Philly to cover just because of how shitty Cleveland's been.
Yeah, I'm in the exact same boat here. Eagles coming off a bye. Browns team can't figure it out on offense. I don't like the spread, but I am going to take Philly here to win and cover. Next up, we have a AFC South matchup as the 2-3 Indianapolis Colts head to Nash Vegas to take on the 1-3 Tennessee Titans. 1 p.m. Eastern kickoff, Nissan Stadium on CBS. Colts are coming off a tough 3-point loss to the Jags in Jacksonville, while the Titans are coming off a bye week, and they most recently got a W against the Dolphins in Miami. Indy is favored by 1.5 as the road team.
Yeah, I saw that Levis is trying to battle back. I don't know if he's going to be able to play this week or not, but I'm going to take the Colts on the road with some of our friends would call him the Wacko Flacco.
Yeah, there's a possibility, I think, still that AR might return, but yeah especially if
I've seen that too.
Wacko Flacco. Either way, really, I think they can put enough on the board to get the W here. I'm going to take Indy minus the points to win and cover on the road as well. Next up, the 4-1 Houston Texans head to Foxborough to battle the 1-4 New England Patriots. 1 p.m. Eastern at Gillette Stadium on CBS. Texans hit the road after getting a 3-point win over the Bills and look for their third straight, while the Patriots look to avoid 4 straight losses after the Dolphins got the win in Gillette last Sunday, 15-10. Drake May is getting the first start of his career. Houston is favored by 7.
Yeah, I don't think it's a real ideal situation to put Drake May into in this game, but 7's a lot on the road in the NFL. I mean, D'Amico's probably going to have the D ready to go for a rookie quarterback, so I'm going to take the Texans minus the 7.
I went back and forth on this one. Texans are struggling with injuries, and the pass defense can be tough. I think that Houston wins this game, but 7, I almost feel like this is going to end up a push. But I'm going to take the Pats to keep it close enough to at least cover the 7 points. Next up, the 2-3 Arizona Cardinals head to Titletown to face off against the 3-2 Green Bay Packers. 1 p.m. Eastern at Lambeau Field on Fox. Cardinals are coming off a big win against the Niners in San Fran last week and look to keep pace in the NFC West, while the Packers return home after getting a W over the NFC West team in the Rams 24-19. Green Bay is favored by 5.5.
Yeah, Packers got a lot of issues going on. They got receivers skipping practice because they're not getting the ball enough, and I actually really like what Arizona has kind of turned into so far. I'm going to take the Cardinals on the road here to cover.
Yeah, Packers D's looked really good all the year. I think this is another week under Love's belt since his return from his injury. So I'm going to say Green Bay here at home to win and cover. I love it. We're just keep one after another.
This is the opposite of college.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's usually the case. All right. The first of our 4 p.m. matchups features the AFC West matchup with the 2-2 LA Chargers heading to Mile High to take on the 3-2 Denver Broncos. 4:05 p.m. kickoff at Empower Field at Mile High on CBS. Chargers are coming off a bye week. They are looking to avoid 3 straight losses, with their most recent loss coming at the hands of the Chiefs in KC. While the Broncos are looking to make it 4 straight wins after getting a big win over another AFC West foe in the Las Vegas Raiders. LA is the road team, but they are favored by 3 here.
Yeah, I like the Chargers in this one. It's 3 is probably right. It wouldn't surprise me if it's not a 3-point game anyway, but I do like the Chargers to go on the road, even though Denver has been much improved. I think the Chargers have a little bit of an advantage here, so I'm going to take them minus the 3.
Yeah, I'm with you. Denver's rush defense is really their weakness. That doesn't bode well against a team like the Chargers. They ground and pound as much as they do, so I am also going to take LA to win and cover. The next of our 4 p.m. games features the 3-2 Pittsburgh Steelers as they head to Paradise to take on the 2-2 Las Vegas Raiders. 4:05 p.m. kickoff at Allegiant Stadium on CBS. Pittsburgh is coming off a 3-point loss at the Cowboys on a last-second score from Dallas, while the Raiders look to shake off an ugly 34-18 loss at the hands of the AFC West rival Denver Broncos. Pittsburgh is favored by 3.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Steelers in this one. There's still too many questions of what's going on with that roster in Vegas, so I'm going to stick with my theory of going against them until something's proven. So I'm going to take the Steelers -3.
I'm with you. Steelers get back on track here. I'm going to take Pitt to win and cover. Next up, we have an NFC South battle as the 3-2 Atlanta Falcons head to the Hornets' Nest to battle the 1-4 Carolina Panthers. 4:25 p.m. kickoff at Bank of America Stadium on Fox. Atlanta is coming off an overtime victory over the Tampa Bay Bucks last Thursday, 36-30, while the Panthers return home after a 26-point loss at the hands of the Chicago Bears last Sunday in Chi-Town. Atlanta is favored by 6.5.
I'm taking the Falcons -6.5. The Panthers, I think you're going to have to give me 10 is probably the lowest before I'm switching my mind. So I'm going to take the Falcons -6.5. I still am not a believer in the Panthers at all.
Yeah, Cousins is starting to look like he's building some rapport with his receivers. Add in Bijan to the ground. Atlanta easily should win and cover this one. Okay, last of our 4 p.m. matchup is one this podcast has been looking forward to for a while. 3-1 Detroit Lions heading to Jerry World to face off against the 3-2 Dallas Cowboys. 4:25 p.m. kickoff at AT&T Stadium on Fox. Lions are coming off a bye week and previously got a big win over the Seattle Seahawks in Motor City 2 weeks ago, while the Cowboys returned to Dallas after getting a really competitive win over the Steelers on Sunday night. Detroit is favored by 3.
Well, in the preseason, I said I don't know who gets screwed more in Dallas, Debbie or the Lions, and normally I would stick to that, but Dallas got a win that they kind of snuck out on the road Sunday Night Football. They really shouldn't have won. The Lions had a bye week, are completely healthy. Situationally, I think this is just right. I think the Lions win and cover. So I'm going to take the Lions.
Yeah, rough win for the Cowboys. They're dealing with a lot of injuries. They're not coming off a bye week. We're missing our 2 starting defensive ends. Deron Bland's not guaranteed to come back. Our run defense randomly showed up despite all those injuries, but then we lost Marshawn Kneeland for the rest of the year with the meniscus tear. It's kind of rough sledding right now in Dallas. I hate picking against my boys here. I think this is just a different script with Monty and Gibbs. It's going to be tough to slow this run game down. This potentially could end up in a push, but I'm going to take Motor City to cover. Our Sunday night matchup features the 1-4 Cincinnati Bengals heading to East Rutherford to take on the 2-3 New York Football Giants. 8:20 p.m. kickoff on MetLife Stadium on NBC. Bengals are coming off a 3-point overtime loss at home at the hands of Baltimore, while the Giants return home after getting a big win over the Seahawks. Cincy is favored by 3.5.
MetLife getting the Sunday night and the Monday night showcase.
Yep.
I like Cincinnati here. They've got to, like I said, that loss last week, that's a hell of a way to lose, but you've got to bounce back. The Giants have proven to not be that good. They should be able to at least do something with their offense in this game. And it's a primetime stage. Like you would think Burrow usually shines in those moments. So I'm going to take Cincinnati minus the 3.5.
Yeah, I went back and forth in this, but Cincy's defense is in shambles, which makes this one a tough one to pick. Danny Dimes is starting to wake up a little bit. He didn't have a bad week last week. I think this one's going to be closer than it should be. So I'm going to take the Giants plus the points, thinking that this could end up being a 3-point win for Cincy. As you just said here, East Rutherford gets a primetime matchup 2 nights in a row. Our Monday Night Football battle features the AFC East showdown of the 3-2 Buffalo Bills against the 2-3 New York Jets. 8:15 p.m. kickoff, again at MetLife on ESPN. Buffalo continues their road trip, is looking to avoid 3 straight losses after a 3-point loss in Houston against the Texans, while the Jets return stateside and looking to shake off their own loss at the hands of the undefeated Minnesota Vikings. They also have an interim coach, and they have a quarterback in Aaron Rodgers that is dealing with a lower ankle sprain. Buffalo is favored by 2.5.
The Bills last week showed that they are just excellent at clock management to end that game. Some wise decision making against Houston. I couldn't have done it better myself. It was brilliant. So I believe that usually a team gets that 1 game bump when something changes. Saleh being fired. I'm giving the Jets the 1-game bump on their home field. I'm going to call the Jets win this game outright.
I am actually with you. Despite a majority of these being on the other side of the equation, I think the Jets are going to get that bump that you just talked about. Bills favored by 2.5. I just feel like this is a situation where the Jets come home and get a W to exhilarate the crowd a little bit. First game for Ulrich when he fills in. We'll see what happens if he gets the head coaching job full time or not. But I am going to take the Jets here in a get right game in their first without Salah at the helm. All right, the LA Rams, Kansas City Chiefs, Miami Dolphins, and Minnesota Vikings are all on bye this week. So let's move into locks. Jake, what is your lock of the week?
Give me Cincinnati going on the road to the Giants.
I am locking in on Green Bay over Arizona. Green Bay at home. Defense has been forcing mistakes. I think that may happen with Kyler. So lock me in on the Pack over the Cards. Give me that dog.
We're going to London. Austin Powers will be there. Jacksonville wins the game at plus 108 against Caleb Williams and the Bears.
Bark it up. I am going to take Seattle over San Francisco. I like the situation with Seattle at home. I think McDonald schemes up an approach that slows the Niners offense down enough to get the win. So give me Seattle plus the 150. All right, guys. That is it for week 6. Flying right along here. As always, please like, share, subscribe, leave comments. We'll get back to you guys next week. Check out our NCAA show. Got a lot of crazy stuff happening in college football. If you typically don't watch college football, we had a ton of teams in the top, 10, 12, 15 that came up with L's last week in games they should not have lost. A lot of parity going on both leagues. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So if you typically don't pay attention to college football, it is an entertaining thing happening right now. Maybe not so much to bet on, but any final thoughts here, Captain?
I'm just ready to prepare my speech to get on my soapbox about the referees next Tuesday night. So,
oh God, yeah,
I can already anticipate. They can only imagine what they're going to come up with this game. I can only imagine.
I can't wait. I have a feeling that I'm going to be joining the podcast with a pretty significant loss, but we'll see what happens.
We'll see.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. As always, for the fine citizen, Jacob Workman, this is Reese Downing, TNT Tuesday Night Touchdown Podcast, NFL Edition Week 6. See you guys next week.
See you, everyone.